Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and this is the Not So Serious Keto video podcast, the final one of 2020. So unlike most podcasts where I end by telling you what last week's Easter egg was, this week I'm going to start with it. And all of you got it, but you may have not gotten the specific symbolism behind it all. So I actually had two Rudolphs behind me. This bigger one, this is from Build-A-Bear. I think it still lights up somehow. Where is it here? Oh, plays music. Oh, there we go. There's his nose lit up. That speaker's starting to sound a little bit worn down, but that's because this was Connor's from Build-A-Bear back when he was about the age of Colton, maybe a little bit older. And then this one is Colton's. So the two of them kind of signified father and son together. And then I'm grandpa here in the middle. And that leads me to the reason why I haven't been doing a whole lot of videos the last week or so. It's because my son Connor is home from the Army for 2 weeks. We picked him up at the airport, and it didn't go exactly as I had imagined. And not in a bad way, but when you've got plenty of time to imagine something like this, imagine the picking him up at the airport scene, it was very much like a Kodak commercial from the late 90s in slow motion, directed by Michael Bay, with Colton seeing his daddy and running across the concourse to meet him. And in the background is playing some music, probably Coming Home by Motley Crue or I Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith, something like that. And running up and being swooped up by his dad in slow motion. And that's not exactly how it went. I mean, first off, there's all kinds of soldiers that were coming off the concourse, and every one of them naturally looks the same. And this is what Connor kind of explained to me as an effect of basic training. Eventually, no matter how small you are or how big you are, you all wind up right around 170 pounds, fairly similar build. So everybody's coming off, shaved head, all got their masks on. It's really pretty hard to pick out which one is Connor. And then when Jaden saw Connor, she just made a beeline for him, and I did my best to try and catch up with the camera. But this is what it was like.
How are you? Hi, Colton.
Who's that? Who's that? Can you show him your face?
How are you, Colton?
Who's that? Who's that?
How have you been, mister?
It's your morning.
It's Daddy. It's been cool having him back. I'm not getting as much of his time as I had hoped for. Over the last several months, I've been thinking of all the things that we need to do together, the video games we need to play, the board games and card games, and the TV shows we need to catch up on. And that was sort of from a selfish sort of mindset, because he needs to spend time with everybody, and everybody wants to spend time with him. And we've got 2 weeks is all. So we're trying to pack as much in as we can. Fortunately, I get so much joy in just watching him play with Colton. And when Colton is awake, when he's not napping or sleeping, I guess napping and sleeping are the same thing, but the two of them are just inseparable. I mean, Connor loves being a dad. You can just tell that, and he is so patient, and they have so much fun together, and vicariously, I have fun just watching them. Another side effect of having Connor home is, just like I had put together my list of all the things we need to do when he's home, he put together a list of all the things he wants Dad to cook when he's home. And he got home and proceeded to grab some of my more high-end cookbooks, like Modernist Cuisine and Milk Street, and started picking out a lot of sort of complicated recipes. And I don't mind complicated. I enjoy being in the kitchen. But some of these things, I'm spending like 4 hours making a meal. And on the bright side, they've been really delicious. On the not so bright side, really time consuming. And I suppose then back on the other bright side is I've learned that some of these just, even if I were to keto-fy them, would not be worth making a video for, just because no one's going to want to spend 2, 3, 4 hours making something, including like a breakfast. There was one of the things that he picked out, I think it was from Milk Street. It was these curry braised eggs, and wowzers were they good. You do them in a Dutch oven, but it took hours. It took hours because you're reducing tomatoes and stock and things like that before you even add the eggs. Super good, and probably pretty keto-fiable without a lot of work. But, you know, for breakfast, wow, a lot of work. Then there was a recipe for a caramelized banana custard tart that came out of Modernist Cuisine. And this thing took about 2 days to make. This was way too much effort. And it took 28 egg yolks. 28 to make this thing. Had I known that, I would have probably put the kibosh on making that recipe just from the get-go. And it had some sugar in it, and it had some flour in it, but I thought after 2 days of work, I'm gonna have a slice of this. And I ate it, and it was really good. I don't know that it was 2 days worth of work good. And fortunately, it didn't kick me out of ketosis because there wasn't all that much sugar, and a lot of the crust was actually made with almond flour. There was some all-purpose flour in there, but fortunately, it didn't kick me out of keto. Now, the one thing that Connor wants today that I just absolutely won't be able to eat is he wants some of my 7-cheese smoked macaroni and cheese, which is just a total crowd pleaser for carbaholics. I'll probably make a tiny little Corningware, you know, like this size version for myself using healthy noodles, see how those hold up, you know, with the whole baking process. The other thing is it's also too cold outside, in my opinion, to be out running the smoker. So I'm going to use my Polyscience smoking gun and see how that works for doing some smoking indoors. That's a tool I haven't shown yet in any video. It's, you know, another Modernist Cuisine sort of thing that I picked up a number of years ago. But if that works out well, I do get a lot of questions from people that say, I'd love to do some smoking, but I live in an apartment, or I don't have the space, or whatever the reason. Is there a way to somehow simulate smoking indoors? So we're going to give this a run with the Polyscience smoking gun today. We'll see how it works, and if it does work out, we'll come up with some sort of video in the future that utilizes that. But that's sort of the brief Connor update. I don't know if he'll show up at any point during this podcast. We had a major diaper blowout situation. Oops, TMI. We had a major diaper blowout situation with Colton a little while ago, and fortunately, that's taking up a lot of time right now, which is buying me the opportunity to actually record this podcast. Hard to say if I'll be able to pull off another video before the end of this week, before Connor leaves. I'll see what I can do. I'll see if there's anything that I can incorporate him into. But ultimately, my main focus this week is family time. So if you don't see a lot more videos from me this week, please don't be bummed out. We'll get back on a regular schedule after Connor goes back to Georgia, which will be on January 3rd. And I'm sure that is probably going to be a tougher goodbye for Colton than the first one. I think after this 2-week period where he's kind of gotten used to having Connor around, I'm a little apprehensive of how Colton's going to handle that. But the good thing is it's only 9 more weeks, and then Connor will be back home full time, and that'll be awesome. That'll be awesome. In my last podcast, I continued to talk about trying to get a good night of sleep. And I was feeling rather enthusiastic as I had just gotten probably 1 or 2 good nights of sleep in a row, and was very excited, thought perhaps I had cracked the code. And I'm not sure. I don't know that I have or not, and that's why I didn't want to share the information. And a lot of people kind of attacked me in the comments for that. They felt like somehow I had some sort of agenda or profit motive, and I took a little bit of offense at that, because for those of you that have watched my videos for any length of time, you know that I really don't have any sort of bias or agenda when I'm reviewing something. I try something out at oftentimes considerable expense to myself so that I can save you, my viewers, time and money. That's my goal. I don't want you wasting time or money on something that's going to frustrate you, and that then is going to in turn hurt my credibility because I recommended something that you didn't like or that didn't work for you. So I like to be really certain, whether it's a recipe, an ingredient, a tool, a method, whatever, before I share it. And especially in this case, because it is something that is definitely not mainstream. In fact, it's right on the edge of new agey. And I think it's the sort of thing that if someone is sort of close-minded to, it's very easy to mock. It's very easy to make fun of and say, this is ridiculous. I can't see how in the world this is going to work. But I'm not going to tease you anymore, even though I don't have a verdict on this yet. I haven't decided whether I'm convinced this works or not. I'm going to tell you what it is, just so if you want to investigate it on your own, you can. And it's a suggestion I got from a few different people, and it's earthing or grounding. And I will include a link down below in the description to the earthing website and their documentary on YouTube. It's like a 90-minute documentary if you've got the time. Essentially, the notion is we've gotten out of touch with the earth, and because we are electrical creatures, of course we're electrical creatures. If we weren't, things like EKGs and EEGs and MRIs, those things just wouldn't work on us. So we are electrical. But we carry the wrong charge because we're not coming in contact with Earth anymore. We are very insulated from Earth. This is the premise. I'm not trying to sell you on this. I'm just repeating, what my tiny brain recalls about why this is supposed to work. So by coming in contact with the Earth, either directly, like barefoot out in the grass or sand or on a beach, which I guess would also be sand, that by doing that, we're able to release some of this positive charge, which is supposed to be the bad charge, even though it's called positive, and reach this level of equilibrium that we're supposed to have electrically. And this is supposed to cure all manner of things, from skin issues to inflammation. That's the big one. It's supposed to help with inflammation. And those of you that have watched for any length of time know that inflammation is a major, major concern of mine, and one of the main reasons why I advocate for keto. But this is also, earthing, supposed to deal with inflammation. It's also supposed to deal with anxiety and depression and sleep issues and just a host of different things. If you get out onto the earthing site, you'll see this absolute laundry list and you'll think, impossible. And I would have thought that too a couple of years ago. In fact, I remember reading the book Wheat Belly by Dr. William Davis a number of years ago. And at the time, I wasn't ready for the notion of low carb. So as I read through this and was reading through all of these success stories of people that would come into Dr. Davis's office with whatever problem, insert problem here, answer, eliminate grains, eliminate sugars. Essentially, even though he didn't call this book a keto book, a lot of it, is kind of keto. But I read that and I thought, whatever, I don't believe this. Yet here I am now, about 10 years later, and I totally believe it. My mind wasn't ready for this notion at the time. Similarly, apple cider vinegar and the fact that I could cure my acid reflux after 15 years of being on multiple medications. I probably took 5 different brands of over-the-counter and or prescription medications for acid reflux and GERD. And I cured this by drinking apple cider vinegar. I would have never believed that either. It seems preposterous to me. So one of the things I've learned is just because I don't necessarily understand how something works doesn't mean that it doesn't work. So I decided that I would try out earthing. And I bought this Black Friday kit that had probably too much stuff in it. The main thing I wanted was the mattress cover so that I could get the earthing/grounding when I sleep. But they were sold out of those. The only way to get them was in a kit, and the cheapest kit was like $500. And it included the mattress pad, it included a pillow cover, it included a couple of seat mats, floor mat, car mat, some little pads that you can attach directly to yourself, your feet, your hands, whatever. There might have been some other stuff in there, but it was definitely more than I needed. And if I decide that earthing does in fact work, I'll come back and I'll do a video and I'll say, here are the things I bought. I wouldn't get these maybe I would. So now that I got that sort of preamble out of the way, let me tell you what my experience has been. The first thing I did was I set up a grounding mat underneath my desk. That way I can always be barefoot and grounded whenever I'm doing video editing or answering comments on YouTube or whatever, grounded. And there's a cable that comes from the grounding mat that then goes into your outlet. The hot and the neutral plugs are both, they're just plastic. It's just there as a placeholder. But then that bottom third plug, assuming you're in the United States and you're using those sort of plugs, that bottom one, the ground, is the only one that has anything moving through it. And I put my feet down on the pad and immediately felt a tingle, which is kind of wild because it's not electricity that's coming into me. It's something that's, I guess, going out of me. And I felt this tingle and I went, wow. I actually recorded it on video. So eventually, if and when I release this video, you'll see my reaction from this. And I thought, this is kind of interesting. And I put the mattress cover on my bed and I put the pillow cover on my pillow. And I had my first night of sleep and I slept a straight 8 hours. Next day, I think I woke up a couple of times over the course of the night, but it was one of those where I woke up and then immediately fell back asleep. It wasn't the situation that I often have, which is where I wake up and then I'm awake 2-3 hours or maybe the rest of the night with my mind just churning. So over the course of the last 2 weeks, 16 days, whatever it is, I've been tracking my sleep on a spreadsheet, the same spreadsheet where I track my weight and my morning blood glucose and morning ketones. And then I'd make a little note like good sleep, bad sleep. And I have had, out of these 14, 16 days, whatever it is, 4 nights that I would qualify as exceptional sleep, like 8-9 hours, pretty much straight through. If I woke up, it was wake up, go to the bathroom, get back in bed, conked right out. I had a couple days that were sort of medium sleep, and then the rest were just my traditional garbage sleep that I've been experiencing for months. I've tried mixing in different suggestions from you, my viewers, all kinds of different things. I see no relationship at all to my sleep and whether or not I have any of those things. So like last night, I did nothing but the mat. I slept 9 hours. 2 other little interesting things. Colton has not been sleeping well, or had not been sleeping well. He's got a couple things going on. First, the not sleeping well, but then also some issues with eczema. And supposedly, this grounding also is supposed to help out with eczema. So I took 2 of the grounding or earthing seat pads and put them under his fitted sheet in his crib. His skin is clearing up and he is sleeping like a baby, which he is. I mean, he is sleeping straight through the entire night, like 10, 11 hours, the way a baby should. The only thing we've changed is putting these mats on his bed. So it's one more data point. It doesn't make this, a scientific study or anything. Interestingly also, whether I have a good night of sleep or a bad night of sleep, every night since I've started earthing, I have the most vivid dreams. I don't recall the last time I remembered dreaming, but my dreams, incredibly vivid, and people are showing up in my dreams that I haven't seen in 20, 30 years. People whose names actually I don't even remember. I'm remembering high school friends that I haven't seen in easily 30 years, if not longer. So that's a very strange thing. And REM sleep, very important for our mental well-being. So even on these nights where I'm not getting solid, contiguous blocks of sleep, I am absolutely getting REM sleep. One other interesting little thing that's happened, and could be entirely coincidental, but I had mentioned in one of the podcasts that after doing that last potatoes video, resistant starch video, I developed a rash in my armpits. And I'd quit using deodorant, and that wasn't making it go away. And I was trying some topical creams, and that wasn't making it go away. And I was waiting to get in to see a dermatologist, but I thought, you know what? This grounding, it's supposed to cure everything. Let's see what happens. Armpits, all better. Now, it could just be that maybe whatever this thing was ran its course over a period of time, but I saw no change for like 4 weeks, and then I started doing this grounding stuff, this earthing stuff, and now it's cured. At least it seems to be. So to kind of put a bow on all of this, The reason I didn't want to share it, and the reason I'm still sort of reluctant for having shared it just right now, is I don't know if this is real. I don't know if this is a placebo. I mean, it can't obviously be a placebo on Colton because, he's not even 2 years old yet. He doesn't know that there's a mat on his bed, but he's sleeping soundly. So right now it's up to you. If this is something you want to look into, research, knock yourself out. I would say maybe hold off spending any money on it. Oh, here's one thing. If you buy the book, and I'll link to the book on Amazon if you're interested, but if you buy the book, be aware that if you purchase anything from Earthing, you're going to get another copy of the book. So unless you plan on gifting a copy to someone, come in. Oh, look, I got a visitor. Colton. Colton. Yeah, that's Stitch. Come here. Okay, he didn't want to be on video, but maybe he'll come back. So you may hear a little bit of Colton in the background here because he just came downstairs and now he's off in that other room playing with some cars. So now I'm totally distracted. I think what I was saying is just, if you want to do some research on your own, go ahead. I haven't committed one way or the other whether I think this works or doesn't work. I've read that it can take a month, it can take more than a month for some of these things to sort of iron themselves out as you're earthing. So I'm going to give it some time. I'm already invested. I'll keep you updated.